So my calligraphy project requires that I use black ink. And there are many different kinds of black ink, and some of it bleeds and some of it doesn't. Now the Schaefer ink, black, this is the paper I'm using. So what I'm trying to discover is whether it bleeds at all. There's not, this ink bled, Schaefer script ink I bought the other day, and it bled on the paper I was using, but it isn't bleeding on this paper. Of course, you can't see what I'm doing because I'm off screen. So this may work fine. So let me just write this down, Schaefer. And it's in this bottle because I do also have Schaefer in another bottle. Okay, so we'll see if that bleeds. Okay, we'll try the other Schaefer bottle, which is this little a tiny bottle. Seems like there's something in it. It does open. Schaefer little bottle. I did an L-ectomy and an O-ectomy and an E-ectomy. Here we go. Is this going to bleed? It doesn't seem to be bleeding either. So, and I'm just going to pretend for shits and giggles that these are the same inks. So, exit one bottle. Well, see, that's my lovely test. Throw this out. Should I save that bottle for anything? No. Okay, Panache fountain pen ink, exceptionally black. So this is telling me to use a special pen cleaner to clean the ink out of the pen. Do I want to even use this? This sort of crud Panache. Doesn't seem to be bleeding. I think it'll flow okay. Flow is another thing. I'm using this brush because, or this pen nib, because I can wipe it off. So I'm not diluting the samples. See, now this one's bleeding. Where's my camera? These are not. So the Panache bleeds badly. So this is a fail. Let me just show you what it would look like on a... No, I'm not going to. It's telling me that I have to use special cleaner. So exit Panache. Okay. Now, this has got to be the dumbest bottle that you'd ever... And maybe you're supposed to hold it like this in your fingers and fill it or what, but it's dumb. Because people put the bottle on the table when you're done with it. And what happens? It tips over. So I'm going to put this in a different bottle as soon as I can. So Visconti. The flow seems good. It seems what I need for my work is I'm using a dip pen flexible nib, gold nib, and I need it to flow fast. So flowing is important. All of these I think work with the flow test, but this is not bleeding. panache is still bleeding into the fibers of the paper, and the Schaefer is not. So far, Schaefer and Visconti are fine. Pelikan Tinta, Gunther Wagner, Brilliant Schwarz. So it's not only black, it's brilliant black. Pelikan. Seems to flow. I bought this bottle of Schaefer ink because my Waterman was not in stock. And I like Waterman a lot. And I was not happy with this bottle because it was bleeding, but it's not bleeding on this paper. Must have been the combination of the paper and the ink. Because when I got Mont Blanc black ink on that other paper was fine. So there's all sorts of factors that will determine whether ink bleeds. It's not just the ink brand, it's the paper. It's also the pen nib. If I have a nib that's very sharp, that might actually tear the fibers of the paper, then there'll be some wickage happening. So anyway, I think that these three are working. This is Ambre de Briment Herbin ink. Oh, that's brown. It's not going to work regardless. My friend Ben gave me this bottle of Dutch Masters. It looks like it should be put on a salad dressing, and this is a little marble up here I guess you do this, you turn it upside down, and then you fill it from here, and then you let it go back. Anyway, it's a very cute idea, but whether it works or not, I don't know. And look, I've got orange on my hands. Okay, then there's this, Noodler's ink. Now, can I say that on YouTube? I love the owner of the company, and he fills it right to the top. When you buy a bottle of his ink, there's no doubt about it. You're getting exactly how much should be in there. So Noodler's black. Seems to flow well, Nathan. His earlier inks or other inks I've had of his have been very slow the feed is kind of slow. God. Now, is this going to dry between now and the time that the wedding people's great-grandchildren are born? Because his inks may take a good long time to dry, and that's very important because these do have to go through the rain and sleet and dark of night, and they might, Nathan does make ink that will last longer than the paper. So when that happens, you open the drawer that has your last will and testament in it, and the lawyer is going to read it, and the paper's dissolved, but the ink is still there. So you pick up you better write it in script and have all of the letters connecting so that it can sort of be placed down like a doily and read. But it does not bleed. It's still not dry. And I may come back in an hour and do the smear test and see if it's dry then. And if it can't dry immediately, it's really not of any use to me. you know, if I'm drawing, my hand is on this part of the page and down here and then back up here again. And if the ink is wet in between, there's going to be smears everywhere. It'll look like this. We'll see. It's still not dry. The other ones are. 1, 2, 3. Oops. How did that color get in there? What is that from? That's from that orange bottle. These are dry. It's my hand. Maybe it's the Noodler's ink on my hand that's smearing all over everything. Use my pinky. Visconti, no. Panache, that we're crossing that out anyway. The black Schaefer's fine. Visconti's fine. Pelican is fine. Noodlers, uh-oh. So let me just do another test with Noodlers, and I will come back and I'll do this in an hour. What time is it? 6:40 in the morning, for God's sake. Okay, Noodlers. 6:40. So I'm going to come back at 7:40. I'm going to set my timer on my watch. And if it doesn't dry in an hour, this is useless to me. Now, maybe it would be of value to bankers, or maybe it could be used on some sort of security system where there are doorknobs. You cover your doorknobs with Noodler's ink, and you grab the doorknob. The thief grabs his doorknob, and he has permanent ink on his hands or something. There might be a reason to have ink that never dries. But in my life, my life is too short for the never part. Okay, the last one is this carbon ink, which is waterproof and does work with the fountain pens, carbon ink. And I think it might flow fast enough. You know, maybe not. Spoke too soon. It may flow fast enough. I do have carbon ink in a Noodler's pen, and in fact, I haven't used this pen in, let's just do this test. I haven't used this pen in 2 or 3 months, and I just put it right here. Now, I may have moved it, tilted it upside down and things like that, like I just did. So the ink that's in here has had time to sort of move around and smush things around. So this is a Noodler's safety pen, the Boston safety pen, which you can use India ink in it, or carbon ink, which is in a waterproof ink. And the reason that you can is when you're not using it, you submerge the nib back into the barrel, which is full of ink. So it never dries out because it's completely underwater, as it were, under ink. Now, then you slide it up and it holds it tight, the little cork or rubber seal down here, silicone, I don't know what it's made of. And so it should work, and it does. It flows fine. And this should be, now so the pen is doing its work. Is it bleeding a little bit? It shouldn't be bleeding at all. I mean, it might be bleeding. Why are we skipping now? It shouldn't skip. The only time that these pens could conceivably fail, I think, is that the barrel is not full enough of ink. So you retract it, you think it's submerged in ink, and it's not. So essentially what is happening is the tiny ink that's stuck in the pen nib and the ink channel and everything might evaporate a little bit. And a little bit is just as bad as a lot of bit. You want it to be, you don't want it to dry out at all. So what I'm going to do now, I just had I really can't tell if this is submerging or not. So I probably should fill this up. And I know, let's move my ink so I don't tip it over. I know I just put a big old this in that drawer. So let me, oh, look. Oh. I don't know how much this barrel can hold, but it has 1 millimeter of ink in it that it didn't have before. So, and people are telling me that I can use this in a regular fountain pen, this ink, and I have never tried it, but I probably should. So I'm going to leave this out here and actually fill a pen that I will do drawings with. Why do I want ink that doesn't smear with water? Because I may want to do a drawing that doesn't smear. Sometimes I like my ink to dissolve in water, but sometimes I don't. So I'm going to set my alarm for now 57 minutes. 53 minutes. 53 minutes. Where's my timer on this thing? Timer. Oh hell, we'll just say 1 hour and 1 hour and 0 minutes. Timer. Start. There. Okay, noodlers, you better dry. So anyway, for me, a black ink should be black. No other color than black. Sometimes they have a slightly warm tone, so they're sort of brownish. Sometimes they might be sort of cool, sort of bluish. And Waterman is sort of bluish, and Schaefer is sort of brownish by, if these are all of the angstroms or whatever color is made of light waves. This, it's just moved in a little notch. It looks black when it's on light paper, but sometimes if you were to take a paintbrush and smear it, it may look a little bluer or a little colder or a little warmer, or it could look a little grayer. And Waterman has a slight tinge toward blue, and Schaefer has a slight tinge toward brown. But in Visconti, of all of these inks, Visconti seems kind of grayed out. just seems a little dull. So maybe the ink is old and it starts to fade. Black ink, LOL. Yeah, my black ink matters. I was conscious of the Black Ink Matters / Black Lives Matter connection, and sometimes I do label my videos or an announcement in public discourse using that, and I offend some people, and I don't mean to necessarily do that. Sometimes when I did do one about black pens matter, I was actually trying to make a point, because there are many collectors who look at a black pen and they say, I'm not going to even bother collecting those, because they're less valuable than the color pens. And that's often the way black humans are looked at, as being less valuable. So even though there is a connection that I was making between that and that, now Black Ink Matters, that's a little cheap, and I admit it, and you can say whatever you want. I almost didn't title it this, but I kept it there because in everything, whether you're talking about ink, pens, people, places, things, words matter, and discussing anything, it's difficult to go from an individual instance to a group of anything and make a comment about all black ink or all black pens, because you can say something very specific about this individual, but seeing it as a group, then you have to start being careful, I guess, about how you tread. We live in weird times, and I'm from Minnesota, so of course Minnesota is in the news for its homegrown terrorism in the guise of the people that are supposed to be protecting us. And there are some people that are not being protected at all. In fact, they're being very seriously harmed and killed by these people that are supposed to protect us. And I think it is time for us to keep that in the public discussion. So don't forget. Well, black ink works for me 99 out of 100 times. I will be drawing or writing in black ink, because I need to, especially when I'm drawing, I'm drawing on white paper, I need to show the biggest value difference that I can. And So black is the color one uses. Or if you have black paper, you use white pencil or white ink. And color is the whole big can of worms. And occasionally when I put a color in a pen and I'm writing with color, I am so seduced by it. I just, oh my God, what a pretty blue. And I am distracted by what I'm supposed to be doing because I'm making all sorts of pretty blue lines. I am a Waterman ink kind of guy generally. I find that the color choices that I get with Waterman, or I used to get with Waterman, they made like 5 different colors and that was it. Now they make, I'm sure, dozens, but I liked Waterman bottles. I liked the Waterman ink. It seemed to flow really well, and that was it. I would grab a Waterman. But I was out of Waterman the other day, and I needed to go to the store and get some. I didn't have Waterman, so I bought this Schaefer, and the Schaefer bled. It's very watery, and it bled on the paper I was using. So a friend of mine came to my aid and brought me a Mont Blanc bottle of black, which I have used up. And I have a job I have to do right this minute. I should be doing that right now instead of talking to you, but I had to choose a black ink to use. So Panache was taken out of the running immediately because it's wicking and bleeding on this page. Visconti seems a little gray to me, so I don't want to use that. And also this bottle, their bottles are stupid. Put that away, take that one off the list. Pelican I might use, and Noodler's black. Well, it seemed to me there was a different color of green or something, but maybe blue. I think they have 2 blues. They've got a blue and they have blue black, and they have this sort of turquoisey blue. So there's 3 that have the word blue in it. And I think they probably only have 1 red. They have a green, they have a purple, they have a brown, they have a black. So carbon ink might work. It's waterproof. I'm always afraid it's not going to flow well enough, but I'll try it out and see. So this is in the running. Pelican is in the running. And Schaefer works on this paper. It bled on other paper, but it works on this paper. And the Noodler's black, which I don't think I can use because it bleeds. I mean, it never dries. It doesn't bleed. It never dries. So here I wrote this at 640, and I'm just going to smush. Oh, maybe it did dry. Did it dry? I guess it passed the dry test. I did one job with Noodler's ink, and it didn't dry for hours, days. It was still wet after days. So Noodler's is back in the running. But it also needs to flow very well and very fast. So now let's do this. These are the inks in running. I'm going to take a pen that I might use to do my calligraphy, and it's going to be a dip pen nib in a let's start with Schaefer first. Now this, I was dipping this nib in other stuff the other day, so there's probably been some contamination in the pen itself. But anyway, so this is Schaefer. see it's not skipping. It's flowing well. So this works. We'll see if it bleeds. That's a goodie. Now we'll go to carbon ink. Dip this in the carbon ink. Carbon. I think I think this might work. But you see this line looks thicker than this line, and this was the one from the Schaefer. So I guess I can get fine lines with this. So this is in the running. Both of these seem to work. And I realize I'm not completely cleansing the bottle after or the pen after I dip it. So each time I test a nib or ink, it's more and more diluted with other things. And this is the Pelican. This seems to flow well. That's in the running. Okay, Noodlers, you're last. And I'm going to make a nice thick descender, maybe thicker than I did on the last one, and we'll do the time test on this one. This is Noodlers. Okay, Nathan, you're flowing well. You're doing what I like you to do, but you have to dry within 10 minutes. If you don't dry in 10 minutes, I can't use you for this job. I'm trying to rinse out the pen here. Okay, so give me a 10-minute warning, and I'm going to run my finger across all of these in 10 minutes. See if that's... Where's my timer? Timer. Cancel. We're going to do 0. We're going to do... We'll do 15 minutes. So we're setting this aside, and we're going to see what happens in 15 minutes. So Joshua, how are you doing? I was talking about this blotter the other day that I designed for myself. This used to be a phone number of mine, and this used to be an email of mine, PenGod. And due to someone breaking into my email and pestering me, I had to get rid of both of those things. So I have all sorts of stationery with a phone number that doesn't work, and I've got emails that don't work, and so that sucks. Here is a little book that made in India. This paper is really weird. It's very bleedy, very fibrous, and not very much fun to draw on. I did get some paper today from our local swap area, and the some of it was rice paper, Japanese rice paper. So let me get that, and I will show you what it's like. I imagine that this will bleed a lot. Has nice sound effects. Oh my. There's two complete sides to this. I don't know what any of this says. This could be sandwich paper for all I know, wrapping paper for pastries. It feels kind of like that. There's two very distinct sides to it. So I will see what each side offers us. Yep, bleeds as expected. This is probably rice paper. Bleeds as I expected. So why would I want this kind of paper? Why would I want to do anything on this kind of paper? Now if I used Sumi ink, which I have around here somewhere, that's another black ink. I have a bottle of Sumi ink somewhere, and I also have Sumi ink that's in little sticks. So this would be for writing. So let's see. You sort of hold the pen vertically when you write in this sort of script. It's very vertical writing. You don't do this. Have you ever seen how a Sumi brush works? Sumi ink and brush? Anyone in the room? I have a stone, and I've got a Sumi ink stick somewhere. Can I find it to show you how it works? Maybe I can do that. Or maybe not. I know I've got them. I've got them here somewhere. But for me to... You know, I have too many places where things can be, and I put Sumi ink in with my watercolors, and my watercolors are now piled in a stalagmite that has other things piled on top of them. So for me to extract them, I need to move a mountain to do it. One thing I should do is condense you're building a desk, is to put all of my brushes, just get every brush I own and put it in a big box, and then go through and sort the brushes so that they're all in one spot. They may be in 3 different drawers, but all the drawers are in one spot rather than in 10 different spots. That would be handy. Okay, you want to see my desk? This is my desk. It's a huge drafting table that's 5 feet. It goes underneath that shelf toward the window. So there's a foot of desk that I can't even see or get to. And it goes all the way to the wall underneath this. So it's a huge, huge drafting table. And so it's beautifully cantilevered to to be flat or vertical with just touching a button, and it's beautifully weighted with this huge chunk of cement filled lead or something. It's an amazing creature, and it's meant to hold a piece of paper. Well, it's holding a lot more than a piece of paper, so it's very heavy. So I have essentially added legs to it so that you can so it won't tip over. Let me just show you what this desk looks like. I can't remember the name of the name of the company that made it. Israel Modern counterweight. Okay, this is the one. I mean, it's almost like this. It's not exactly this one. It has a clutch down here that you can move with your foot, and it makes it so you can, once it's active or loosened, you can move the table up and down and back and forth, and it does all sorts of fun stuff. And but it's way too big, way too big for me. This was used. I'll show you what it looked like when it was in use. Trying to find, there's a picture I have of architects building a battleship or something, SST, the Concord architects. that's not what I want. Engineering drafting table. Engineering drafting table. Let's see if this works. Videos, images. Well, see, they're huge. They're big, way big, and they're meant to be almost. Well, I'll show you how it tilts. Okay, let's just do this. So my drafting table has a base, has the board up here, has some sort of complicated system of levers, I guess, fulcrums and stuff. There's a huge counterweight here, and then there's a brake pedal here. And however you move this thing, you take the brake off and you can move it flat. And when you're doing that, the counterweight moves this way. And when you lift it up, the counterweight goes a different way. And you want it vertical, the counterweight is back over here. So this thing moves to offset the weight of the table. So it can be vertical. So I can be standing here. And if it were vertical, my head would be here. It would be taller than I am, it's like 7 feet tall. And it can be flat. I could put a mattress on it and sleep on it. So, but it's a huge table, and it doesn't need to be huge. This was meant to hold, blueprints for an aircraft carrier, where you are designing the ribs and of the structure made of cast steel, so you need, and it's a big thing you're building, for you. Let's see. That failed. Let's try this one. To use a clean finger. That's okay. Oh, carbon's still drying. Clean finger. Schaefer's okay. So Schaefer and whatever this is, Pelican. So what failed? Sorry, Nathan, I love you to death. Carbon failed. But these two can still work. So, ta-da. So I have seen work desks now. You can buy a smallish, it might be 4 feet by 3 feet, writing table. You can even get them and they're adjustable. They're flat, but they go up and down. And it's to save your back. You can stand and work at the computer, or you can sit your fat ass down and work on it. And you just press a button and they go up and down. Drafting tables, such as the one I have here, you can find drafting tables in the garbage, because people that used to use them don't use them anymore. They use computers to design things. So you should be able to find one cheaply. But what you need for your purposes maybe does not need to be a desk. Now this desk, I have sitting on top of this thing, very heavy filing cabinets. This is why I need the legs on the back to hold it up to keep it from slipping. These are very heavy and they're full of pens. And there's more pens over there, and there's heavy paper. And so there's a lot of stuff on here that would not normally be here if I was an engineer drafting a battleship. But I'm not Blanche. I'm a calligrapher, and I really don't need a table as big as I've got. But I used to do some things that were larger, and I had it vertical, almost vertical. I had two drafting tables, one behind each other, and I could swivel my chair to aim to one and then swivel back and aim to another. And I used this one, this was the vertical one, and I would design posters sized things that I would draw. And I would do it standing up usually, and it was a great table for that, but I don't do those sorts of jobs anymore. So when the table that was here broke because I had too much shit on it, it actually broke the straw on the camel's back. It was a electric mechanical thing that could go up and down, and the plastic teeth in this sort of conveyor belt chain drive thing that would make it go up and down broke one day, and getting it out of this house was almost impossible because it was too big, and I had to sort of tear it apart here and bring it out in pieces because I couldn't bring it out. It was like building a canoe in your basement. My studio became way more full. But those you can get. I mean, in my building of only 150 units, there are people throwing out drafting tables. I don't want to say often, but occasionally. I think the people that threw them out don't have any more to throw out, but they were architect firms and things like that. I don't know what a writing slope. I think if you're only going to do calligraphy and need it to slope when you're doing calligraphy, I think that getting just a sloped wedge-shaped thing that you can put on any table makes sense. If I was, the things I was making large and wanted that vertical table for, I later would fill in with ink and a brush, and I needed my surface to be flat. So if you're having a flat surface is probably much better for you. If you're making something that's this big, or maybe twice this big, flat is fine. If you're making something bigger, the tilt allows you to see the thing better because the perspective isn't making it go off in the distance like this. You can draw better, you can make it work better, and it may help your posture by doing that as well. I do have above me here, I'll take you off of the cradle. I can do this without turning it off. Way up there, right in the middle of my picture, you see a brown wedge shaped thing, and that's a little portable drafting table. I also have over here a portable drawing table that's slantable. It's right here. Cast iron base on wheels. And then I have this, you can't see it, but there's a table that has a slanted top. It's a writing desk that has a slanted top from the Victorian era. And I don't know what else I have. I think I have other ones here somewhere kicking around. But what I would do first, Joshua, is to find yourself just a board, a large enough board, and put a tablecloth down so you don't scratch your table. Prop it up to some angle that you think is comfortable with some books or something, and just see if you like writing on a slant. Sometimes you may not. So test it out. You'll also probably find a reason to maybe, like when I put this table here and added the legs to it, so it wouldn't, it's slanting at it had been slanting at a steeper angle, which I did not like because my pens were too easily rolling down the hill onto the floor. So I flattened the angle a bit, and I'm sitting on a large, tall stool rather than a chair, and it was not quite the right height for the stool and the table, and my back started aching. So you're gonna have to figure out what is optimal, and there probably is, if you go online, what is the optimal drawing table measurements. So under here, I guess you can't see anything because everything, I've got crap everywhere. Is this called ISIS? Is that what this table is called? Why do I think ISIS is the name of this table? Let me just see if it is. I think it's a ISIS S drafting table. (1950s). Well, there is a ISIS drafting table company, so at least again, it's like this, except as a counterweight, this is much more modern. Oh, $3,415.28 used. This is one of the tables I have. This has a little pedal on it that will make you be able to tilt it, I think. Let me just try something here. I know I sent someone a picture of this exact table when I saw it on for sale for thousands of dollars. And the problem is I don't have him listed as, let me just try something here. Why doesn't he show up? Message, I don't want messages, I want contacts. Thank you. I don't know. Let me try something else here. I'm gonna pretend this is an ISIS drafting table. Just see if I can find it. In images. Is this it? eBay. This does look a lot like it here. It has, here's the big counterweight. That's right. Now show pictures of it in the dark. It is a picture of it. For God's sake. $12,000. Okay, good. Good for you. Let's go back here again. Here. Look, this is it right here. This is my drafting table. Exactly this one. This is for $4,000, 4,000 euros in stock. Frisco Kramer Ahmed Revolt drawing table. Well, they must have changed the name, but you see that it has this sort of trapezoidal thing going on. And I had a huge drafting arm that came with the thing, which I eventually threw away. But see, here's another one. How much is this one? Oh, see now here, if you look at this, so that's with it almost flat. You can see where the counterweight is. And then you see it more vertical and the counterweight is moved. This is a cool one. Look at that. This has to be bolted to the floor though, for it to even work. This might be, see, this also is the same table that I have, and you can, like, by pushing it way forward, the counterweight is way back here. So it's a cool, a really cool thing. Austrian cast, 1930s industrial drafting table. See, this is the same thing that I have. This is the back of the table I have in the other room, except I don't have that little side table attachment. Here's another one of mine, like mine. $4,000 out of stock. $4,850 out of stock. So the desk I made for selling pens is an antique Victorian era writing desk. So it has a slanted top, flat top here for bookshelves or something, and then it has these drawers in it, and the fancy carved legs here in the front. And I put wheels on it that make it easier for me to move it. It had wheels, but I put bigger wheels on it, and I'm able to move it more easily. And I move it all of a foot to get to my pen repair area. So anyway, for you, what are you planning to do? What do you need your desk for? What are you going to write or draw? I can, with my vast knowledge, I can tell you what to do. I may use this pen. Well, you can, again, if you did, well, you're in Nova Scotia or whatever, so Newfoundland or wherever you are. So you may not have as many as I have here in Boston, but if you did a search on Craigslist or whatever Craigslist is in your part of the woods, you may find drafting sets for free. Flat files are often for free in this building and around the world, I'm sure, because no one uses paper anymore to do the things they used to need paper for, like architects and designers. So flat files are like these things here that I'm using. These those drawers back there, those were index card inventory things where they would have all these little flippy card things and you'd check off when you sold something. And it was no one does that anymore either. It's all computerized. So things like this are perfectly good for holding pen-sized things. So, okay, that's all I have to tell you. So I'm going to say goodbye here. Just move it to the front camera. My new hairdo. And well, computers probably would prefer to be on a flat table because they're not built to be on a curved one, slanted ones. So what you could do is invest in a nice raisable and lowerable table that you can buy for a couple $100, brand new at Costco and Target and places like that. I don't know if Target has them, but I did see them at Costco in Minneapolis. And it's a large table, desk. It's a working desk, and it's electric and it goes up and down. It doesn't tilt, but it goes up and down. And and just get a slope that's weighted, heavy, that you can put on the desk when you want to do calligraphy kind of stuff. And if you build it kind of nicely, here's what I would do. No, I wouldn't do that. I'd have it. Here's the last bit of advice I'd give you. I mean, for today. Don't get a haircut like mine. That wasn't the advice. Back camera. I need to have nothing bothering my arm when I'm writing. So I need to have, from my protruding gut to the tabletop, I need it not bothered by anything else. So here's my gut. It's the table. Here's my head, here's my hand, my arm, etc. If I put a slant over here and tried to write, this thing here would bother me. this different angle, this different surface would bother me. So what I do is I would create a slope that either can overhang the desk a little bit, like this. So if this were a weighted wedge-shaped thing, and your table could overhang the end, I think you'd find that it wouldn't take up, your computer and everything could be where it is. If you made an overhanging, very heavy weighted thing here, where you could do this, you might like that the best. That way, your elbow might be here and you're writing. You don't want, this would work better, I think. But this thing has to be very heavy. Otherwise you tip it over. Does that make sense? I don't know, was I even going? I forgot to, maybe I was in limbo. So get a flat table that goes up and down. Find a beautiful piece of smooth plywood. Maybe that would be good. Beautiful finished plywood, and cut it to the size that you would like, maybe 3 feet by 2 feet or something, and attach it to a heavy base. And if you're really clever about it, maybe you can have it with, I also had a light table that worked this way. They had little screw feet on it. So you could, raise up, these were set, but the front screws were raisable and lowerable, so you could change the angle a little bit. And that was very handy, because if it's portable, sometimes you're sitting at one table which might be an inch taller than the table you were sitting at yesterday. And just that little inch, it would drive you crazy that it wasn't the same, because your elbow would hit the table or something. So this is what you'd do. You'd build this. So find out the space you ideally would need. Find a board. I have somewhere in my house a sewing table board. Let me just show you what they look like. This was a piece of wood, beautifully laminated piece of wood, or not laminated, but thin. You'd put it on your lap, or you'd put it on the arms of a chair. Let me just say, vintage sewing board. Vintage sewing board. Sewing table. Images. The one I had was, it's just like this. See? It was a beautiful piece of wood, and that little hole there, that's for your gut. That's your gut. Large antique lap board with baker's ends for patchwork. Antique wooden lap sewing board with measuring rule. See, mine had also a ruler printed across at the top, which this one had. So again, these things might be really nice to use as your table, because they're beautifully made, they're flat. Or this, here's another multi-purpose lap board. So you might be able to find something like that that will that will work for you. There you go. See you later.